First quarter financials and the disposition of district funds.
Yes.
All right. Is your mic on? If you see numbers, it's on.
Have to hold it down a bit. There you go.
Perfect.
Welcome, everybody. So included in your packets are our first quarter 2025-26 school year. I am happy and honored to report that at your guys' direction and oversight, we are on track to dig out and build fund balance. So you'll see that we do have to borrow from the state loan, interest-free, that we've done for the past decade or so. But the overall impact will be smaller than I originally projected as I ran numbers this morning on expenses. Through the first quarter, expenses have been cut approximately $350,000 below budget, and revenue is trending slightly below, but overall we're in a very, very good position. So I'm very grateful and happy for that. I was also able to update expenses through October, as all check runs have been done, so those should be pretty much solidified. You guys do not have that pack, I'm just looking at it, but it does look like from September to October we were able to cut another $150,000 month over month in expenses. So things are definitely looking much, much stronger than that. So I'm very, very pleased and honored to report that. Projected fund balance with October expenses included is in excess of $4 million. So we'll be well over that 10% threshold that was set for the 27-28 school year as well. So I'm very, very happy to report where we're at, and the cost-cutting measures are working. Morale and staff expenses are all being met, and we're in a good position.
Disposition of property?
Disposition of property. So we have identified roughly a half dozen vehicles and buses in our transportation department that are obsolete or no longer in use and or will not pass CDE inspection. Buses are rusted out, 200,000 miles. Some vehicles coming close to 300,000 miles that the district needs to no longer maintain, and we would like to sell those and hopefully use those funds to get some small vehicles to help in our special education, transportation, and athletics and general use. So I would like to sell those vehicles as listed in front of you.
So those will come on your consent agenda in the business meeting next, but we just want to make sure if you had any questions on those, you have the opportunity of asking Justin. And then we,
Some old vehicles.
yeah, and these are vehicles that have been backup vehicles. They haven't been in use. They won't impact our transportation routes. So these are just vehicles. We disposed of many last year. These were vehicles that at that point in time we did not dispose of, but at this point we feel like we can dispose of them as well. So, and then we have another exciting opportunity that's come forward on potential use of the kitchen. So I'd love Justin to kind of share that with you, just to keep you in the loop and keep our community in the loop. Justin in August talked about our kitchen at Frontier becoming available. It's a kitchen that really is a great space available, and want to put that word out, and we've been approached by someone.
So to follow up on the detail on that, as I said, in August we put out for anyone in the community that had a caterer or a position or food trucks that we would like to bring life into Frontier and start using that space. And we were approached by a popcorn company that the space is actually a perfect fit for. They will invest in complete rehab of the facility, all inspections, all maintenance, and we will also be able to push some taxes, utility expense to the renter as well, in addition to about $2,000 a month in income off of that property as well, having no impact to the students or facilities or ability to maintain it. So this is kind of a home run. So
win-win.
Cool.
So we're still working out a couple details on the lease and all that, but we are not far apart at all, so I don't
That
see.
will be an ongoing business in there?
Yeah, we're actually looking at a 5 and 10-year term for him to rent out of that, consistent, very low employee count. And we've also talked about, he needs some part-time help in his facility, or for his operations. So reaching out to the community and going, hey, we have some great part-time jobs that are local that work around flexible schedules. And he was super excited to hear that we're excited about it. So it's kind of a good fit. He needs minimal refrigeration. He needs the hood, so the infrastructure is a really, really good match, so.
And just to be clear, we have checked with our food service department, obviously with ICA looking at opening in there. Our food service staff really feels that they can better serve satelliting food into that building from other kitchens. So they don't feel like it's in their best interest to try to rehab that kitchen anyways. So just to be clear, this would not impact our ability to continue to provide.
It's a twofold, and granted, Terry with our food service, as I addressed it with the potential vendor, or potential VC, her desire and need trumps everything else. So once we get her final approval on what she needs, if she gives it the green light, then I will enter in final discussions with that tenant. But, having our students, our community being firsthand and the veto power for any use of that, so.
And this might be a great opportunity for some of the students, for a culinary
Yeah.
program, or maybe internships.
Exactly. Yeah, we're thinking potential for our transition program students to potentially work within packaging and things like that. within
Summertime
this company.
employment?
Yeah, yeah.
Full-time, full around, because their busy season.
Yeah, but
It's the
summertime
holiday
for the
season.
kids maybe.
Yeah, but yeah, it is
Yeah.
full-time and very, very flexible schedules, so
Yeah.
it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
So our desire to bring this to you tonight was obviously let the community know this conversation is happening. Obviously, if there's anyone else out there interested in bringing a proposal forward, we're still open to that. We would bring you, we have a initial letter of interest that we're still negotiating with them. That would come to you once we have a firm offer that we feel comfortable with. But again, we felt like we wanted to be transparent and make sure the community knew in case there's anyone else out there that might have interest as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, that's exciting.
This is a good day.
Good things happening.
Very cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you for
Justin.
sharing that.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Mhm.
Okay, next up, we have our revised policy JIH, student interviews, interrogations, searches, and arrest. And I'd like to welcome Tyler, our Director of Safety, and our Chief of Police, Chief Engel. Talk a little bit about, they had a lot of work that they did in the revisions of this, so we appreciate it.
So in this particular policy, they worked directly with Mary Powell, who has really taken a lead on this particular policy. And I know last meeting we had a couple of questions, and both Tyler was out at that meeting, and obviously we wanted to get Chief's voice. And so thank you for being here. We know you have another meeting you're gonna have to get to, so we'll try to be quick on this so we can get you out. So I don't know if I know, Mary, you had some specific questions. I don't know if you want to start with those that
well,
were
yeah.
related to law enforcement and.
Right. So the point of this, when we started to go through it, was original policy seemed very mixed up as to what was the school's responsibility and what was law enforcement's responsibility. And so thank you for going through that, and for you also. And so I think we had some good discussion going through it, and we saw your suggestions, and you saw your suggestions, and then we kind of looked through a couple other things. So you obviously both have a copy of this, right? So in this, I guess my question to each of you is, I think this now reflects kind of what, Tyler, you and I talked about with Jamie that one day when we met, and that included the comments from you. But now that you've kind of seen how it's come together.
Sure.
Do you guys have any other thoughts, any other concerns? And if you can maybe sort of give us, I guess one thing I guess I would like to hear is, when do we do stuff, and just sort of in your own words aside from the policy, and when does it turn over to law enforcement? situation. So if you could maybe kind of just address that generally, and then that'll help us to kind of understand where this was split out a little bit maybe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the first half of the policy is more specific to school responsibilities. The second half is where it's broken down more so for when law enforcement becomes much more involved. Beyond that, I mean, it's going to go into interviews, then your interviews and interrogations. I think we actually changed some of the verbiage in there from question to interview, the notifications, just so that way we're better aligned and we collaborate a little bit more with law enforcement as it pertains to notifications to parents, legal guardians, things of that nature. Is there anything on your end outside of any of that you saw that was pressing?
No, I just want to say thanks for bringing this forward and having the opportunity to take a look at this document, so I appreciate that. Well, that was my Australian accent that I just But there are some things, you know, to say specifically when law enforcement's involved and when they're not is really kind of a, I don't want to necessarily call it a sliding scale, but it kind of is.
Yeah.
You know, for example, if we have a case that involves a vape, for example, which is a status offense, law enforcement involvement is fairly minimal. When we get to, you know, a fight between two students, that's where the collaboration between law enforcement and just the school comes together to kind of sort through a little bit of you know, the circumstances, who needs to be interviewed. Is this something that is going to go to, is this going to be at, you know, potentially at a municipal level, or is this going to be something that is much more involved, such as a high-level assault? At which point, if it does become something that would likely get transferred to the state court, then we would have a much more involvement. Yeah, and then when that kicks in, then we have specific guidelines that are outlined by the state of Colorado when it comes to interviewing a student, specifically if it comes to custodial interrogation, but it's really a custodial interview. And there's very specific outlines that are established by the state of Colorado.
And one thing that I wanted to, like, when we've got in this first section here, we've got interviews by school administrators, and we've got in here in the second paragraph, a request to have parent guardian representation will be honored. If a student is suspected of violating board policies or school rules, it says that we may interview the student if the school official has reasonable grounds to suspect that a violation has occurred. But then we've kind of got another paragraph that we pulled out specifically because it's after the added language about a request to have a parent or guardian representation will be honored. However, if a school official is made aware or notified of a report of child abuse and or neglect, and the suspected perpetrator is a member of the student's family, no contact with the student's family will be made. So that is an exception to the parent notification situation, and I just kind of wanted to clarify that because, you know, you can wonder, well, why wouldn't you want to notify the parents? But that is an important exception to that. So, and I'm sure that unfortunately comes up.
It does, and just to kind of add to that, is that if there is a sexual related crime and the victim opts not to involve the parents, they do have that right in the state of Colorado where we don't have to notify the parents. It is ultimately the request of the victim.
Okay. So even if the sexual situation was other than family?
Usually they're familial, but for example, I can say that it wasn't in this state, but in another state, there was reported sexual assault. She did not want to have that reported to her legal guardian, the father, and we had obliged that, and that is the case in the state of Colorado now. You know, we certainly tried to make notification, but I just wanted to let you know that because that is out there. So
So that's kind of what you have to deal with from your law enforcement
that would be on the
perspective.
legal side, and we would certainly collaborate with school authorities and notify the principal and let them know the process.
I think that's a challenge, and I think that's where the conversation, I was gonna jump in, I think that's where the conversation got sticky, and we wanted to make sure that Chief had the opportunity, because there are situations where legally police can't notify, and I think when it becomes a police matter, as much as we want to, if it becomes a police matter and police are in charge of that investigation, we must defer to law enforcement, and law enforcement must follow the law. And I think that's really important for us to be very public about that. You know, one of the things Chief and Tyler and I have had lots of conversation about is we don't want our disciplinary matters to become law enforcement all the time. And we've worked very hard to make sure that that doesn't occur. You know, schoolhouse issues should be handled with discipline. If somebody wants to press charges, that's different. If two students get in a fight and somebody gets injured and a parent wants to press charges, that's that parent's right, and at that point it becomes a police matter. If there's not that situation, then we work very closely with the SRO and we determine, is this something that's going to be disciplined, or is this something that must go to police? If there's serious bodily harm, then we certainly make that decision, like this is something where somebody was seriously injured and maybe it is something that we should involve law enforcement. So we try very hard, and it's something that we've worked very hard together to make sure that everything that happens at school doesn't become a police charge, because that's not our intent. And Chief Engel has been very supportive of that's not our intent. Our SROs are great in really helping us discern, is this serious enough to be a charge? Is this serious enough to take beyond to get support for that student and that family? Or is this truly a disciplinary matter that needs to be handled at the school level? And so I do want this board to understand that that's a conversation we've worked really hard on in our relationship, and I'm really appreciate that, because our SROs are phenomenal. We can talk with our SROs and we can discern that together. And that's something I can say that I've not always had with departments that I've worked with, and I'm really blessed to be working with Elizabeth PD in this situation.
And then we kind of talked about, the searches for property and search of students' personal effects, and that was all in the policy before. We kind of refined that a little bit, and just knowing that, what our parameters are, Tyler, as far as what we can do, what we will do. And then if anything has to go further, then law enforcement is involved, right?
Yeah.
Like searches that, the only searches that would be done would be asking students to take off their coat, or if they had like a layered, sweatshirt over a
Outer
shirt.
garment.
That would be the most, and shoes, I guess, that would be the most. If it had to go beyond that, then for whatever reason, then it's gone well into needing law enforcement to be involved. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. I mean, we don't work, within the same realm as law enforcement. We work within reasonable suspicion, whereas law enforcement is going to work with probable cause, right? And so with that, we've got a little bit more flexibility to work within that, but regardless, we're not just going to be going for anything and everything. We'll go for the things that are necessary, but we're going to have reasonable suspicion that something is violating school rules, board policy, state law, things of that nature, right? And we're going to work within that scope. We're not just going to be going out of our way and violating these kids' rights. So.
Exactly. So I think this policy, at least I feel that it got sorted out pretty well. I'm hoping and assuming you both do, that it's sorted out pretty well as far as everybody's responsibilities. And Tyler, you had showed us that you already were doing some form, but now we have created a specific form that can be either paper or electronic for any time that you need to do any kind of interview or a search of a student on campus, so that you have a record of what happened, why, and witnesses to it, et cetera.
Yeah.
And the results.
Yeah. So we've
Nothing
had.
around
We've had JIHE, which is an exhibit to JIH, and so that's an official document which is supposed to be filled out after the completion of every search that is conducted on a student. And that is our documentation showing that we have reasonable suspicion that we followed basically our own guidelines that we've set forth along with school and state laws, which provide those limitations on what we're able to do. And we entertain the idea of making an e-document of that, so that way we can house that within our Google domain, and it's not just a paper copy that you just don't know what could happen with it. I mean, things happen. I don't want to say that, you know, from my experience, I haven't had anybody lose a document or anything like that, or anything get destroyed. But we're humans, and those things can happen. And so, in order to prevent that, we could house that within the Google domain that we manage very, very carefully.
And then, as far as law enforcement involvement, we've made it, it's plain on here that if you need to interview a student somehow or the other, that it will try to be done, not during class times, but if it needs to be, then you will make arrangements and you will tell us why, and we will make the appropriate vetting, I guess, so to speak, of it. You know, I mean, we know you, so we probably wouldn't vet you. But,
I appreciate that.
Yeah. But, you know, who knows, you know, at some point it may be an officer that we don't know, and so we need to be sure that it's, you know, who they say they are and all of those things. So we've got all that kind of built into here. And then in that case, once it reaches law enforcement level, we've got in here that the principal or his designee will be made available if, you know, if you want them to be, but that often it is probably not a good thing for them to be involved. So it just depends on what the situation is and whether you feel it's a good thing to have or not involved. Does that sound right?
Yeah,
Okay.
it does.
Okay. So, that's all I I just wanted to vet through and make sure that you both feel comfortable with it now, that it makes sense, that it's clear who does what when. And then, of course, you know, every situation doesn't fit neatly into packages, so we always have to remember that. So, any other thoughts or concerns or other tweaks that you think need to be done on here?
I don't think so. I think it's a good document. I think that it certainly outlines a level of collaboration between the school and law enforcement. It makes a line of when law enforcement needs to kind of take over, and in those circumstances, it's probably necessary. You know, you have another officer from another jurisdiction, they typically just don't come out to say hello. Usually there's some level of involvement, and I know that we'll be involved because usually the law enforcement agency will reach out to us because they know that there's a relationship between the school and the SRO. So it's not something they're just going to come out blindly in those circumstances. So I'm appreciative of the document, and I think it covers. It's a good umbrella, and as you said, not every circumstance will be covered, but it does provide us it provides us a good guideline from the court.
Yes.
Yep, I would agree, yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, we discussed this at our last meeting, and I think some of the concerns we had initially about making sure that there's a emphasis on reaching out to parents or letting parents know if a search is happening. We adjust those, and I'm appreciative of your guys' engagement on helping to make sure that the guidelines we have in place is doable. So, thank you.
Yeah, I think it looks great. My concerns are addressed in here, so the same concerns I always had, which was the parental notifications, so, yeah. Looks great. Thanks for your hard work.
Thank you, Bob.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you both very much.
Okay, so next up, we have our revised policy BEDB, which is agenda.
So this particular policy has just some minor changes from our last meeting. We've modified, we've added that second public comment section, which would be any relevant or public comment that wouldn't relate to items on the agenda. And also reference that if we have meetings like we do tonight where they're stacked, the public comment would occur in the actual business meeting versus the working session. So I think we've made those necessary corrections, so if there's any other
I made a
questions.
few for Mary
Oh.
today as well.
Okay.
Just the minor
Yeah,
things
just
you
the-
asked for, I did. It's not in this document,
Yeah.
but it is.
Yeah, that's
I've
right.
corrected them.
Right, so that would be in the first page of the EDB, in the working section of the paragraph. It's always got a long cover comment, but then in order to match kind of the other piece of it on the back, I asked to say, so long as, no business session immediately follows that, just to tie it all together into a motion package.
Yep.
And
Make sure
it's
everybody's
still-
on the same board, same
It
page.
still keeps our commitment that we made back in 2022
Yep.
about having public comment
Yeah.
at every meeting.
At
I
every-
know it was
yeah.
very contentious back then, but
Yeah.
we stuck to our guns, and here we are. We
Yep.
still have public comment at every meeting,
Yep.
so. So I don't have any issues with it. I think it looks good. Anybody else? Okay. All right, next up, we have our revised policy BEDH, which is public participation at school board meetings.
So this also, again, did some cleanup from the last meeting, where we clarified again that the sign-up sheet will emphasize the on-topic or off-topic, whether it's a topic on the agenda or off-topic of the agenda, and then the prioritization. So parents, students, and then district taxpayers will have priority over any connected to the district. So I think we've gotten all of those. Were there any changes to that particular one?
Mary had just a
do you wanna
small one I made.
touch on the,
I did, and that was actually one that I forgot to mention.
Oh, that's okay. We can change it and then approve it with changes at the next meeting if you guys decide it's time.
So, in both paragraphs 1 and 2, it's got, it shall schedule time for some board meetings for brief comments and questions from the public, and that's, questions part is also in the second paragraph. And, I do know that we do have in the third paragraph, questions asked by the public that require further investigation may be referred to the superintendent for consideration and later response. But because during public comment, we don't interact, we listen, we don't immediately reply, I don't know if we wanna either take that questions thing out and then enhance that one thing in the third paragraph a little bit more to say, something like on the form, if you wanna reply, and I think we've already got that, if you wanna reply, please check the box or something. So, that was kind of one thing. And then the other thing that the thing that I forgot to mention earlier was, in the second paragraph, the board encourages the discussion of all personnel matters to be conducted in an executive session. I think that needs to be reworded or something, because we don't, personnel matters should not be discussed in a public comment situation. No names for sure, but personnel matters is not a public comment situation. So I'm a little concerned about that language there. And it's definitely in an executive session that any personnel matters would be dealt with, but I'm not sure that sentence is appropriate for
Right.
this particular.
right, because you wouldn't bring that to a public comment and then expect an executive session to happen. That
Yeah.
would need to be done in advance.
Yeah, right. So,
So do you think remove that line?
I don't know, I mean, what do y'all think? I'm not sure exactly what to do about that, but I don't like that sentence in there because it feels out of place a little bit, and then especially encourages discussion of all personnel matters. I mean, it's like, not just encourage it, but personnel matters should not be discussed, like that. So I guess I'm
I wonder if how you're reading it, I guess how I read that is that, we ourselves are encouraging ourselves to only discuss this during personnel matters, or during executive session. Like, there should be no discussion of personnel matters.
Yeah, I like the more definitive like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, personnel matters should not be discussed in public comment or in any form other than executive session or something. A planned executive session.
Brad might have arrived at just the right time.
Yes. He's like, oh boy, I'm on already. So,
So we're-
anyway.
Right.
I agree.
Hmm.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like that.
They're
Yeah.
I mean, I think it goes along
they're-
with,
they're
you know,
saying
not
it does, right.
intentionally naming people in a derogatory way
So we're
during a
not
public
tracking
comment.
it.
These are just things that
That's what
are not
Nicholas
permitted.
said.
That would be things you could say.
Well, and people aren't
Your
here to
time is
defend
up.
themselves, so,
Yeah.
Right,
and it's really not a place for personal conversations.
right. If someone has a complaint with a teacher,
Mhm.
this isn't the time to come to the school
Right.
board
Right.
and air that grievance out loud in public.
So I'm sorry, I walked away to get Brad a book. What are you saying? To not change it or
So
to?
where we left. So I think we're gonna change it to something like, discussion of personnel matters is not permitted in public comment or in any form other than a planned executive session. But I don't know if that, it almost seems like that should be a whole pulled out little statement, because it sort of blends in with other stuff that's about public comment, and I don't know, it just seems, it still seems out of place, but I do think we need to definitively say, yes.
Yep.
Sure.
Can I approach the bench? Hi, Brad Miller here.
I think it's
It's
on.
on.
Okay. So, believe it or not, I have lots of opportunities to engage on this policy in other places.
Yeah, I imagine.
And so I've got some learning from that. First, and I'm coming in real cold, but with respect to what you just said, I think that's appropriate with the exception of, I don't think that commentary about the superintendent can be excluded, and that tends to be a matter of public concern, so I would say personnel matters except regarding the superintendent, oddly.
Sorry.
So you get to be criticized in public.
I'm
Thick
used to it.
skin, Dan.
I'm used to it.
And then I would augment this with either a president statement or something contained in here that pertains to the idea that personnel matters should be addressed through policy, whatever it is our stakeholder grievance policy, and make that be the direction, rather than an executive session. It would be, you go to the source, you go to the principal, you go through that process.
That's true, because we'd need a lot more information before it ever went to an executive session situation.
Correct,
Okay.
and then and one of the main sort of philosophical reasons you don't want to accept criticism of employees is that you might at some point be the arbiter of an appeal or some sort of employment decision.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
Thank you.
Nope,
So
I
this
had an
one,
extra.
this one may require some
Very
additional work
fortuitous
then.
timing.
So what did you say, bring it back?
So this one may require, yeah.
And there's-
One more reading.
There's one thing I thought about adding in here, and that is, I know in the past, we have other people that have come to read statements from others who aren't here. And if someone wants to give public comment, I would like to hear from that person, because technically, I don't know if what is being read is legit. You know, someone could be saying, I'm here speaking on behalf of John Doe,
Yeah,
but we don't know that it's from John Doe.
speech was written by AI.
Might as well just stay.
If you don't mind. This issue actually, from time to time gets litigated.
Mm-hmm.
How can you constrain comment in a limited public forum? And something like that, if they reflect that they're reading somebody else's notes,
Mhm.
I don't think that we have a good, solid basis
Okay.
to preclude that.
Okay.
But I would just want it to be clear on the record, you know,
Uh-huh.
that they're reading somebody else's thing, that
Okay.
they're not speaking for themselves. But ultimately, you know, we can constrain the amount of time that they're here, who comes, like I saw that you're prioritizing students and families, you know, and that all makes sense. But at the end of the day, if somebody goes a little off script,
Mm-hmm.
as long as it's not profane, threatening, disruptive, we're gonna give a little bit of latitude.
Okay. And, you know, with me, I'm just gonna have to take it with a grain of salt, because unless the person is sitting there in front of me, or I'm talking with them directly, or if I'm hearing from them directly, I don't know if what is being said truly reflects.
Now, Brett, that
Percent.
individual wouldn't get 3 minutes for their statements and 3 minutes to
No.
read someone else's. They get 3
No,
minutes.
yeah, any individual here gets 3 minutes. You don't get to somebody else's 3 minutes because
Okay.
they're not here. No, absolutely not.
Okay. Okay.
Good.
Gaming the
And when I
system.
think about testifying on Capitol Hill in Denver, that's often the case too, that someone can come in and say, I'm reading remarks on behalf of so-and-so.
Yep. Okay.
So that's something that we see happen
Okay.
at the state
How
capitol.
you respond to that, how you take it,
Mhm.
whether you take it with a grain of salt is up to you as, yeah. But it sounds like BDH will want to do some work and work with Brad and maybe try to edit that further, so that may be one we'll table at the next meeting, so.
Okay.
I think we'll be ready next time, but it's just a little massaging that's
Yep.
hard to think through right now completely.
Okay, fifth reading is good.
Yeah.
It's only gonna be 4.
All right, so next up, we have our revised policy, acronyms, ECAF, use of video and audio monitoring. So this is our first reading, and this is being reviewed to align with ECAFR, and the changes on that, so.
And this one I don't believe has any,
no changes, just a
There
video.
you said that.
And I think we have we
Yeah.
talked about it a little bit before you
Yeah.
got here too, that he might be able to
Yeah.
explain
Yeah.
some additional things.
Okay. So you want me to say my original?
Yeah,
points
go
and
ahead
we
and-
can refine that?
go ahead and bring that up and then,
Well, I'm gonna kind of look at the regulation and the policy kind of together. There's an exclusions paragraph in ECAF that says that recording of teacher instruction for purposes of completing a licensed personnel performance evaluation and recording of students for purposes of their educational program, neither of those situations are covered under this ECAF video and audio monitoring policy. And then when we go over to, and that's fine, but then when we go over to the regulation, those kind of situations seem to be blended into this regulation, though. In, like, viewing requests, for example, has requests for review of video recordings that are considered a student education record and personnel record will be as follows. So all of the viewing request information is related to what it says ECAF doesn't cover.
yeah, but I think those also fall under, I'm sorry?
FERPA?
Yeah, they fall under FERPA. So I think we're mixing apples and oranges in the two different policies. So I think that the ECAF policy, the exclusion is a general exclusion, and then when you go to the ECAFR, it's really breaking it down into the different categories. Storage, viewing requests, and then it's taking into account FERPA as well. So I think that's the difference, is where it comes in.
So I don't know if that needs to be a little bit clarified or something. And are those two instances of educational recording for students and teacher personnel recording for purposes of their evaluation, whatever, are those handled under other policies? Those are, I see.
So JR, what is the one that is student educational records? JRA
JRA?
and
Yeah.
JRC?
Yeah.
It was something,
Yeah.
I know it's a
Yeah.
J.
Yeah. So I didn't know if those talked about, and maybe we just need to refer to those generally in some of this discussion, but then maybe those two don't. I don't know if they, reference what to do if somebody asks for the videos, and so maybe that's why it goes over to this policy.
Well, isn't this one more meant for, like, say there was a issue on a bus
Yeah.
or issue in a behavior issue possibly?
Yeah,
Well,
that's.
Then that
that's
might
how
be
I
a
read it.
recording you
Yeah.
request.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't necessarily be and Brad
So
or Dan, FERPA?
I'm gonna talk about FERPA in a little bit here
Yeah.
tonight at the regular meeting or the later meeting, but, the question of what is a student record is really sort of central to this, and, I'll discuss that later, but I think for purposes of this, we're in okay place if you change and spell available correctly in section 4 of both of these. It would make the lawyer me happy.
Available.
So, okay, well, you know, as long as there's a reason, and maybe we could just clarify a little bit, and this is just the first reading.
Yeah.
So, we got time to put little tweaks, clarification tweaks in there. I mean, I don't think
I
it's
don't know where it's
bad,
at, but I'm gonna make a
I
note.
just thought
I'll
it
look
was
through
odd.
it.
I'll have to look at it,
Whether
yeah.
it's excluded, but then we talked about how to get those records in the same regulation related to that policy, so. We can clarify that. We go.
All right.
I'm gonna send my
Any further
typos
discussion
over.
on that? All right. So next up, we have revised policy GCBC, staff supplementary pay plans and stipends.
So this particular one, I'm trying to remember, Mary, did you have any changes on this particular?
No, but last time's changes
I
were,
don't have.
Okay.
do you remember, Dan, last time we just changed,
We
this
don't
was
have
the
to
only
much.
Yeah.
change.
So-
Yeah, so we did add the title stipends to the classified extra duty pay and stipends because there are some minor instances where stipends are appropriate for classified extra duty, and so I think that's the only modification we made to this particular one. So I think everything else we had clarified in our last meeting, so that was the last change we needed to make.
Oh, and we added monetary.
Oh, monetary compensation,
Oh, yeah.
I think those were the only couple changes.
Against compensation.
yeah.
Good to me.
Okay. Next up, new policy JLIF, service animals, animals in schools.
So this we had clarified because it wasn't very clear, so we separated animals in schools from service animals. We talked about moving one section to animals in schools, and it really is important to leave in service animals, and that's that we don't allow other service animals other than dogs. We don't allow service pigs. We don't allow
horses.
service horses or service parrots. We really are limiting to dogs.
Cats.
That we did leave there. So service animals section are remaining as we had discussed it. We did add the animals in schools where we have discussed that animals are permitted in classrooms. Preschool classrooms are required to have some animal. We do have fish in most of our preschool classrooms. Every now and then there might be a hamster. But we do require the parents are notified of the presence of an animal. Where the animal supports curriculum, parents have to be notified when that animal is going to be in the room. The animal should be under the care of the individual teacher who brings it into the room, meaning it's not the custodian's job to take care of that animal. And that animal should be there for the particular unit and then should be taken home. So when our classrooms are doing observing the chicks hatching, the chicks are there until they're hatched and then they're taken home. They're not left in our classrooms, and this is to address some of the issues we've had in the past where sometimes the animals have become the challenge of our custodians to take care of and are left over the summer where they have to be cared for. So and then the issue of allergies, where we have parents and children who are terrified of animals that are in the classroom, and then we're kind of violating the child's right to feel safe in the classroom. And so, if there's an animal in the classroom, parents need to be notified. If for some reason that child feels unsafe in that classroom, we must provide some alternative option for them. And again, so this outlines all of that, and I think just makes it very clear. So I think we captured all of that now on this policy. I hope it's what we discussed and that it's ready for adoption tonight.
And I know there's some people that they're gonna be unhappy with it, and I understand, we all love our animals, but there are, in addition to concerns about children and, allergies and, the possibility of an accident, but you're also looking at insurance implications as well.
Yeah.
You're looking at risks of, maybe depending on the animal, you've got salmonella, so there's a lot more that goes into this that isn't on a piece of paper as well.
We're not anti-animal, we just want to make sure parents and children know, and that when those animals are in the room, that it's not a surprise, and that if a child has a real fear of an animal, we've had snakes, and we have children who are terrified of snakes, and if that's causing them not to be able to access what we're providing educationally, that's a problem, and we need to make sure that we're acknowledging that. So I feel like this is a great, I know that the couple of teachers who have had a concern feel like this is a great compromise and provides them the ability of still bringing in the animal to enhance the curriculum, but also recognizes that maybe caring for that animal long-term in the classroom isn't the right thing to do, that animal can come in, be a part of the classroom, and then go home. So.
I think it's great.
Yep, I think this is a win for folks who would also like to see animals in the classroom,
Yep.
because it's not a complete prohibition. We can still have them in there. We see the chicks hatch.
Yeah.
We can have the tarantulas come and visit for a
Yeah.
short time,
Watch
and
the
we go home.
butterflies hatch. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, and the last one we have here is our new regulation KEC-R-2, which is our board library guiding protocols. And this is our fourth reading.
I'm going to direct you to the new copy that was placed on top of your folder, because we did catch some significant errors in Protocol 3, which is the sensitive content catalogs. We're referring to Protocol 1, which was the old Protocol 1, and so thank you, Mary, for catching those. And so I believe we've caught that. We've outlined what sensitive topics are. That's materials that include graphic violence, sexual content, profanity, obscenity, ideations of self-harm or mental illness, religious viewpoints, drug or excessive alcohol use, or racism, discrimination. And these are materials that do have educational value, age appropriate, and aligned to the approved curriculum. So yes, it's hard to believe that some of those do, but they do. You do have historical materials that might have graphic violence in them. We don't want to take those out of our curriculum, but we do want parents to know and be able to have the ability of saying, I really would rather my child not experience that without my knowledge. So we mark those sensitive so parents have that ability to either opt their child out or at least be aware of when their child is reading such content. So I think we've clarified that, certainly open to accepting any further feedback.
I think this is good, because, we captured the things, and then it talks about with the sensitive content, how parents can, what happens with that parents automatically receive an email. If they don't want their child to check out any of those books, then they can totally opt them out of those particular books, so they can't check them out. But then they can, I don't know if it says it in here, but just so people know, if there's a particular reason a particular book is needed, then the parent can give permission for that one individual book that the student can look at. So, it kind of covers all bases, I think.
I did have a person who was offended to tears about being forced to monitor their children's the emails that they get, but that's called being a citizen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be a citizen for 10 seconds to view the email
Well,
and
and
then delete
you
it.
can always set rules in your inbox as well. If you
Yeah.
choose not to see them, you can just
Yep.
route them to junk.
Yep.
So,
Well, I appreciate this airs on the side of securing parental rights.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They have a right to know what's happening, what their kids are reading,
Yeah.
and if they don't care to know, then they can opt out.
yeah.
Exactly. And all the email really says is, just so you know, your child just checked out this book, it's on the sensitive list, if you have any questions, call the librarian. That's all the email says.
Yeah. Yeah, she was moved to tears about that, so.
It was unfortunate, I
Whatever.
empathize, but.
So, good.
All right.
Looks like we got there. Great, thank you.
So with that, we are at the point, we've got any planning, any new business?
No, we do, our board, we do have the Thanksgiving feast on November 20th. The board has traditionally supported with paper goods, so just to let you know, that is something that unless you tell me otherwise, we're gonna do again. We'll support the alternative ed Thanksgiving banquet. And I'll share that during my update at the next section of the meeting, but do know that that's happening on Thursday, November 20th. Doors open at 5, dinner served at 5:30, and that's a community Thanksgiving feast. So.
Yeah, it's a wonderful event. It's a lot of fun. You get a great meal.
Yes.
All right. So with that, I am going to adjourn this meeting at 6:51 p.m.
Okay.
Take
And
a
we'll
recess.
Reassemble at 7. Do you wanna-
Yeah, unless you want to take a, well, yeah, it
Take a
says on
little
the, it says on the agenda 7, so we'll have to stick with 7.
Okay.
So.
There's your gavel.
Okay. So it is 7 p.m. and I call this business session of the Elizabeth School District Board of Education to order. Can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan's absent. Director Fletcher?
Present?
Director Hunt?
Here?
Director Olson?
Here.
Director Powell?
Here.
I move that the board approve the amended business meeting agenda for this meeting on October 28, 2025 as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Okay. Can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
I move that the board approve the Board of Education working and business session minutes from the September 23rd, 2025 meeting and the special meeting minutes from October 2nd, 2025.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on those? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay, so next up we have communications, and I'd like to welcome Brad Miller. He's our attorney, and he's going to talk a little bit about FERPA and CORA and just help with some clarification.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate getting to be with you guys. So my name's Brad Miller. I'm a lawyer for the district. Sometimes it feels like you have a lot of lawyers for the district, and I apologize for that. But here I am. So in many places, there has been, for a variety of reasons, there's been a sort of an explosion in school districts and charter schools and places of requests for information. They sometimes emanate out of a concern about maybe a student disciplinary matter or a student incident of some sort. And folks like to use two different sorts of frameworks for obtaining information around these things. One is FERPA, the Family Educational Rights Protection Act, federal, and one is CORA, the Colorado Open Records Act. And because there has been here and in many places some confusion and some genuine overlap, felt like it would be a good time for me to come in and sort of walk through those two frameworks just at a broad level, and we can talk more deeply if we have particular issues. We can do executive sessions and all of that, but I just want to lay out the frameworks as best I can here so that we have a common understanding, and maybe our community would have an understanding. And so I hope this will be helpful. So FERPA is a tool that folks can use, whether it be families or family counsel for in a case of like a custody dispute. If there's an authorization by a parent, the family or the representatives can obtain the student records that are maintained by the district, and we're the custodian in the parlance of the law of student records. And those records, in some cases, advocates, lawyers that are representing parents will.
Can you hold for just a minute? Can we shut that door? That's very distracting. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Will suggest that advocates or parents will suggest that any record within the district that is held by the district is de facto a student record. And in fact, there are some times in which records that are not exactly in the student information system or in the IEP maintenance system can be construed as student records. But generally speaking, that's not the case. So let's say emails between staff members that happen to mention a student or that even pertain directly to a student are not FERPA records or FERPA conducive records unless they're maintained as a student record. And the definition of that's a little bit arcane and a little bit odd, but it would be that we purposefully are maintaining that record for purposes of student discipline or student educational outcomes. And so that might be certain counseling records, but it would not be just any other dialogue. This happens to be out there, and if we don't intentionally maintain it as a student record, it's not. And so sometimes someone will say, well, there was video surveillance, my kid got pushed in the hallway, and we know you have video surveillance of it because you might have even, your principal might have said, well, I saw the video, and he didn't get pushed. And then the parent says, well, I want to see the video. If we didn't use that to consider discipline of one or the other students, and we didn't maintain it in some student's file, then it is not a student record subject to FERPA. And this creates a lot of confusion because people assume that it does, but there's actually federal guidance, published federal guidance to the contrary, and I just very, very coincidentally happened to be in conference with the US DOE, the US Department of Education lawyers last week, in which they're actually advocating that we might create some federal law or CFRs to clarify this because frankly, the conservatives in the federal government would like to see more exposure of records, more access for parents, but currently that's not the case. So that's FERPA. CORA, the Colorado Open Records Act, is a vehicle that we're familiar with in Elizabeth certainly, because people use CORA requests to try to get all of your emails about things that you're doing and engagements that you have. And broadly speaking, CORA reaches every record in the district. Every record can be CORA responsive to some degree, depending on the way the request is framed. And then there are exceptions and reasons for withholding or redacting those records. And that's the gist of some of the things that we've experienced more recently, where a parent will say, I want to CORA request everything having to do with my student. Well, that sounds really plausible, except the problem is CORA is a vehicle available to anybody. So if the local newspaper wanted to make that same CORA request, would we give records pertaining to a particular student? No, we would not, because it's protected under FERPA and is protected student confidential. Any directory information around a student cannot be provided under CORA. We have to give to the parent requester only the things that we would give to the newspaper. And so this creates a frustration, and I get the frustration. As a parent, I probably would have experienced similar frustrations if I was trying to get to the gist of something. But those two frameworks are not all encompassing. They don't provide access to every single record in the district. And this is like highly litigated and highly explored territory that is difficult on the outside to figure out how to access. And so I do understand the frustrations that sort of grow from this. But we cannot give, we have to be very, very explicitly on point with what we provide in response to a CORA request, an Open Records Act request. And so the other feature of this is when a request comes, if it is broad in nature, we have to initially say, we're going to provide we're going to consider all of the responsive records. Let's say I want every record in the district with the name Fletcher on it. That could be 100,000 records. And then we have to say, this is what it's going to take. We have to look at all of these. At what's our charge? $41.37 or whatever it is per hour. It's statutorily based. And then we only give you 10 records because we only give you the David Fletcher records that you really wanted to, and everything else was excluded for reasons. We still had to do the work. We still had to charge the price. And that's an unfortunate aspect of CORA. So we often will counsel people, hey, do you want to narrow the time frame? Do you want to narrow the number of custodians? Do you want to narrow the terms that you're searching for? And that will help people to better access the things that they're looking for. But by law, we can't just say, no, we'll look for only the David Fletcher things because you asked for all the Fletcher things. And so we have to do the other. That's our legal obligation, and that creates frustrations as well. So that is the sort of expose I wanted to provide for you, because I know that we commonly run into questions. And that could be like from Kyle Clark in News 9. He might say, I want X records, and Jeff and I get together and we go, that's 10,000 records. And Kyle goes, well, I was just looking for, where Rhonda buys her glasses. That's all I wanted. I just said Rhonda and glasses, and you came up with 10,000 things. Well, that's how we have to respond.
And then redaction, what has to be redacted, what, like,
So we will withhold things that are attorney-client privileged. We will withhold things that are, if contextually you could identify a student through the context of the, you know, sort of the whole narrative within, and you're just redacting the name, but you know it's that third grade boy that rides this bus, that's too close, and so we would withhold that. Redaction would be, you know, we're going to redact the 7 student names, and if it was not something that pertained to a disciplinary matter or something else, like it might have popped up as an attachment to an email between teachers about logistics of going to on a field trip, and there has to be there's an attachment that has the list of the student names. We might just redact all the student names and provide the rest because it's sort of, you know, non-controversial other stuff. But redactions with respect to legal invoices, we will redact a lot of the narrative elements, because a legal invoice from me might say, gave you know, top secret advice to Dan about how his tools for how to discipline, you know, Mary Powell when she speaks out of turn. And so we would probably redact a lot of the content of that and just get the time involved in the amount billed. I hope that helps.
yeah, yeah. Did you guys have any?
Any questions on any of this?
I don't want to speak out of turn. I had to do it, you know.
Yeah, no, you did.
No, just to say it's interesting to hear that at the federal level there are discussions about getting regulations out there to clarify what school districts ought to consider a school record for the purposes of disclosure to parents.
Yeah,
And I think that something streamlined is better, because it sounds like it's up to each district to kind of identify what material is helpful or necessary for purposes of, you know, either educating that student or giving discipline to that student. But it would be nice for parents and everyone in the community to know that there's a standardized rule that's being applied, not just here in Elizabeth, but in Boulder and all over, right?
Listen, I completely appreciate that. That A, would make my life easier. And what's happened now is, just to be clear in terms of the agency, the district makes a threshold decision about whether it's going to consider a document to be a student record. You know, are we going to put it in the file? Are we going to kind of mark it as, you know, an exhibit to a disciplinary matter or something like that? And that's where it becomes a student record or doesn't. It's not at the point when someone asks us later. We've already predetermined that, and so it's not like we have some sort of latitude at the back end to go, yeah, let's make that a student record. If we haven't made that sort of choice in the way we catalog it,
Handle the situation initially.
yeah, then it may or may not be FERPA accessible.
And it
And
does make
again, the
sense-
federal government, again, I talked to
That's very
probably pivotal attorney within DOE just on Friday, and they're very anxious to sort of streamline this,
Mhm.
and I feel like that's a broad good.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
But it also sounds like it's a very good thing that, like, if there's video footage that is part of why the school is disciplining a student, or potentially, you know, taking them out of class, or out of the school in general for a certain period of time, suspending them, that evidence would also be available and presented to parents.
If your student is subjected to discipline on the basis of a video, almost universally, we're going to provide that. And it's going to be an in-camera view. We're going to bring them into Dan's office or to the principal's office or to Jeff's office somewhere and view it together. We're not going to put something out generally and give, you know, like a zip file or something, because oftentimes a surveillance video is going to contain other students and their reactions, and you know, and that's directory information that we can't share with the public. So, and then sometimes we'll blur the faces, like on a bus incident or something, and blur the faces of everyone, so you only can identify the one student actor who's, you know, sort of the subject of the review.
It's a whole lot of work.
And that's a lot of work, yes.
To to.
But
having
we're obligated to do
produce.
that in,
Yeah.
in the case of it being a student record.
Right, exactly. So you kind of look it up, you find the video, you find out there was an incident, then it becomes, from that point, it becomes a student record.
If we make a judgment about a student discipline or about a employee, issue, you know, like maybe a bus driver turned around and yelled at the students, that becomes a student record of those students because we made a judgment. We're going to take some action or explore further based on that. It's when we don't, when we say, well, no, that's just surveillance video and we're going to move on. We're not using that to investigate or further the disciplinary process, then it doesn't become a student record.
That's helpful, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you, Brad.
All right.
That was helpful, thank you.
Thanks all. I'm going to stay around for a little bit, but I do have to run. If I can, I'll be here
Yep.
through citizen comment,
Great.
that I might not
Thank
be
you.
longer.
Yep, no problem. Thank you, Brad.
It is interesting though, that some of the people that complain about the budget are some of the people who also Cora incessantly,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And the $41.37 an hour doesn't cover the costs of that core. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the challenge is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
My thing
Thank
with
you.
that.
Yeah,
So
no
sorry.
problem.
Do you need a spot here?
No, I think I'll go over it.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Next up, we have board member reports. Who wants to kick it off?
Ladies first.
Well, this week we've got coming up, on Thursday morning, we've got our Q&A with teachers at, Singing Hills, so that'll be good. Next week I get to read a story in one of the first grade classes, so I'm excited about that. And it seems like there was something else I was gonna say and I forget, so. But lots of things always happening, and, it's cool, because we like to be involved and see what's going on. It's good.
I'll be also joining Singing Hills for storybook time sometime in the coming months. But nothing else to report, just checking on here.
Yeah.
Okay. You wanna go?
I did want to, this has been an interesting few months, but some of the things that have come out about, a lot of people like to tear down the district. And it's really blatant and it's obvious what they're doing. But a lot of things that are being done here in this district are pretty awesome. I don't know if anybody saw this article from the New York Post. It's called, talks about Mississippi and what they have been doing since 2013. And I'll read just some excerpts from this. Mississippi went from 49th in fourth grade reading results on the National Assessment of Educational Progress about a decade ago to 9th in 2024. Its low-income children are ranked first in the nation. Its black kids are number 3 in the nation, and its Hispanic kids number 1. Overall, when adjusted for socioeconomics and demographics, Mississippi has the best fourth grade results in the nation. I'm from Mississippi. We always talked about how Mississippi is great for the nation because it lets everybody else off the hook since we were always last. But so in 2011, only 1 in 5 fourth graders in Mississippi was proficient in reading. In 2013, so this is what they did, state passed a reform to require teachers to understand the science of reading, basically phonics, deploy literacy coaches to schools, identify students struggling to read early, and hold back students in 3rd grade who weren't ready to advance. More than
Yeah, it sure does.
yeah, more than half of black 4th graders in Mississippi now read at or above basic level, while only 28% of black 4th graders in California do. There also must be high expectations, rigorously forced. This is what the Mississippi 3rd grade retention policy is about. If a teacher and a parent know that a child is going to be held back, They will do all that they can to get that child to basic proficiency. Research in Florida, which is where all this originated, shows that getting held back not only helps the academic performance of the students who are retained, but their younger siblings as well. It's fully within our power, so long as we insist on the basics, to give kids a skill absolutely essential to their development and their futures. So with that in mind, why is that important to us? We have a new literacy coordinator. I met her, Cindy Canyu. I think is how you say her name.
Canyu.
Canyu.
Yep.
We have metrics-based curriculum called iReady in the elementary schools to help us identify children that cannot read early and develop a plan with their parents to get these kids back on track. This year, we'll start holding kids back in the 3rd or 5th grade that cannot read at grade level. This year, we started training our teachers in direct and explicit instruction. We just started the proven Take Flight dyslexia program that is really a reading therapy for any child struggling to read, especially those with this dyslexia. We're also training our teachers in classroom management. If our children cannot read, they fail at life. But I fully believe that our reading scores are we now have in place all of these things. This article is the data to prove that those things will work. If we consistently do them, we will succeed. Whatever people want to think, I don't. My facts don't care about your feelings. And we're doing, this board, before I even got here, was doing the things that need to be done. So, yeah.
Well, I've said several times, this is the year of our fruit. It takes
Yeah.
time to get these
Yep.
things into place. This is the year
Yep.
that they're there, and this is the year of our fruit, and I'm very excited. And I can't wait to see what our results are gonna be, because I know they're gonna be great.
Yeah. If anybody wants to read this article, it came out on the 30th of September, just a few weeks ago.
Well, and, I can kind of tie into that a little bit. It's been said, we've been criticized in person and on social media that we should stay out of curriculum decisions and just leave it to the experts. Let the parents and teachers decide and not the community members. And we've seen what happens when that approach is taken. So in the past, we've had a lack of curriculum, and we've had teachers deciding what they're going to teach. So we had each first grade class in one school teaching something different.
Yeah.
Each second grade class, each third grade class. There wasn't aligned between classes, grades, or between schools. And there wasn't a good handoff between, from the elementary to the middle to the high school. And so a lot of what we're putting in place, what we have been putting in place with the evidence-backed curriculum, teaching methodologies, there's that lack of stability, I think, really hurt the teachers and our students. And one thing that we all need to keep in mind is that our community, parents and taxpayers alike, they elected us. They elected us to make these decisions. And the state constitution grants us local control over the curriculum, which includes instructional materials and teaching methodologies. And maintaining that local control helps ensure transparency, accountability, and a balance of perspectives. And we've also been criticized for leaving out the parent voice. But one thing that's been left out in that criticism is we have a curriculum review committee. That committee consists of parents, it consists of teachers, it consists of administrators, and it consists of our tax-paying community members. And many of those community members are teachers or former teachers. So the claims that parents are not involved in these decisions are just simply untrue. And additionally, I would like to emphasize that our tax-paying community should be involved. They should be involved in these decisions. They help fund our schools. And, again, our goal is just straightforward, and it's to provide that high-quality education that consists of accurate, unbiased, evidence-based instruction. And everything that we're putting in place this year, we're going to see the fruit. We're going to see the fruit of it at the end of the year.
Yes.
I took from 2013 to now for Mississippi to realize those results. But yes, we are gonna, I truly believe the scores are just gonna
Yeah.
start ratcheting up. So, and that's testament to you and the staff and you and Kim and everybody for getting all that into place.
And I think scores are the icing on the cake, because the
Yes.
most important thing is that kids are gonna be learning,
Yeah.
and they're not going to just be passed along even though they haven't mastered the material.
Well, and another thing too is, a part of this is putting curriculum in the teacher's hands. So they don't have to go out
Yeah.
and figure this stuff out on their own. Everybody is aligned, so if you have to go in and cover for somebody who is out sick, well, you know where they're at. You know, everybody is aligned. But, you know, not only that, it's, you know, it speaks to morale. It's helping them professionally develop. And there's something to be said for seeing the fruits of your labor. And that kind of ties into the cell phone policy that we put in place. That was a tough one. That was a very tough one, because we had people that liked it, people that didn't like it, and that included supporters and non-supporters. But ultimately, we had to make the tough decision, and we also had to respect and honor our teachers' desire to have a distraction-free classroom, because again, that feeds into morale, the working environment, and helps reduce the turnovers. You're up.
My turn? Okay.
Soapbox down.
Got quite a lot to share tonight. First of all, I would like to talk about the accident that occurred at the intersection of our high school and middle school. Yesterday, we did have a student who was struck by a car. Very unfortunate situation. I've been in touch with the family. I'm happy to report the student is recovering. He is home. He was released from the hospital yesterday. They still are monitoring. There was a lot of swelling in his leg, and so they are assessing again tomorrow with another x-ray to determine exactly what the injuries are. They are still not sure if there are fractures or not, so he will be going back tomorrow, but happy to report that his injuries were not more serious than they certainly could have been. So, I have to just praise Chief Engel and the town of Elizabeth, because needless to say, we don't want another child to go through that. It is an indicator of a problem in that intersection. This time of the year, that sun is blaring in the eyes of people. Obviously, we need people to be cautious. We need people to be careful. So we do need people to be extra cautious, but at the same time, we need to do some more at that intersection. So right now, the town is working on repainting the striping at that intersection, adding some crosswalk lights to warn people when there are people in that crosswalk. Right now, we have our school resource officer, Daisy Tucker, who's at that intersection every morning. Was here this morning. We'll be there every day until we get some of the improvements in place. We currently are considering a crossing guard at that location as well, and considering some other improvements that will make that crosswalk a little more visible, including some additional in-lane structures. If you've ever been in some of the areas where crosswalks are in more prominent locations, they actually have some stanchions in the middle of the road that probably would be moved when school's not starting or ending, where it would be a little more noticeable for drivers that, hey, there could be kids in the area. So we are meeting on Thursday to discuss a little more and put some final details on these improvements. But I just, again, fire, rescue, police were there within, I would say, within 30 seconds. By the time that I got there, we got the radio call. I left here immediately. Our director of transportation was there, ran out of his office and was there immediately. Fire rescue was there, police were there on the spot, and just again, just so proud of our system for responding the way that it did and taking care of that student. And again, parents have also just praised the response that they received in support of their students. So just know that we're not sitting by saying, well, gosh, hopefully it won't happen again. We've got to do something to make sure that that intersection is improved. to make sure that nothing like that happens again. Board, you have a class size report, which we do have policy that requires that we provide that to you twice a year. So I do want to draw your attention to that. It's not something you have to act on, but the class size report does give you numbers for each of our schools and each of our programs, shows you the size of our classrooms, high in our electives and middle and high school, shows you the average class size in our elementary classrooms. Our elementary schools are actually looking pretty good. I will tell you, as expected, Singing Hills is continuing to grow. They are in that area of the community where we do have some high class sizes. What normally happens at Singing Hills is they grow throughout the year. So we staff them according to the size of their school at the start of the year, and then as homes are built, we continue to see growth. We're seeing fifth grade in particular right now starting to hit 25 and 26. So that's always challenging because obviously adding a teacher mid-year is somewhat challenging. So we're keeping our lines of communication open to try to make sure we don't get class sizes that get too out of control. Generally, though, at the elementary school level, our class sizes are pretty good. Middle school right now, we have some pretty high class sizes. We've added an extra language arts teacher at 8th grade to try to lower some class sizes there. We've had a posting for a math teacher to try to lower class sizes there. We're hoping to find a math, science, and a language arts social studies teacher, and unfortunately we've not been able to identify. So we're continuing to try to work to lower class sizes at 8th grade. 8th grade's been a large group that's moved through our system the last 3 years when they were 6th, 7th, and now 8th graders. So that just gives you that data. That's required by your board policy that we provide that. So just so that you know that is being provided to you. Do want to draw the community's attention to some events coming up. So high school play begins next week on November 6th through the 8th, 7 p.m. Performances each night at the high school. It is at Robin Hood. So it should be a great performance. And then Saturday is a 2 p.m. matinee. So do want to encourage, Jennifer Barkley was the Colorado Thespians Teacher of the Year this year. She's Elizabeth's high school theater director, so really proud of her and her accomplishments, but her group always does a phenomenal job. So I'm excited to remind the community about that play. My forum is November 18th at 6 o'clock here in the boardroom, so do want to invite the community to come and just open dialogue. And then, as I mentioned earlier, Thanksgiving Feast, our alternative ed program, has their Thanksgiving Feast on November 20th. Do want to also deal with some misinformation that's been out there, our budget information. We have been flagged for the last 6 years by the Legislative Audit Committee as having flags for overspending. Interesting, that's just being brought to the community's attention. The last report was a 2-year report, the 22 through 24 school year. Yes, 1 year was a budget that I had some input in, 23, 24, and some of our board members here did. We chose that year to do some small deficit spending because we had to raise teacher salaries. We recognized that we were, at that point, $10,000 under paying our teachers compared to our neighboring district where we were forcing our teachers to live since we don't have teacher housing. So that year we did agree that we would do some deficit spending, but we invested it in our teachers. But we had a plan, and since that time we have pulled ourselves out of deficit spending, and now we are, as you heard tonight, putting money back into the bank. So for 6 years we've been flagged by the Legislative Audit Committee, and for some reason now we want to flag that to the community as, oh my gosh, look at this. But for 6 years we have been, yes, we were again, and I spoke at the Legislative Audit Committee. I was invited by CDE as one of 2 districts to speak. One of the things that we're really pleased with is progress that we've made, and that's why Jennifer Oakes asked me to come and speak, because she was really proud of the work that we've done to try to dig out of the position that we were in. Again, in 2021, we spent $2.1 million. In 2021-22, we spent $2.4 million in the whole. Bill Dallas, I will give him credit, really tried as a brand new superintendent to try to cut spending his first year. And then, we cut it down to $313,000 in deficit spending. because we wanted to give teachers a significant raise. And then last year, giving teachers another $3,000 raise, we put money in the bank. So I think, again, it's unfortunate that people out there are trying to spread false information. I'm really proud of the work we've done to cut spending and to get our budget under control. We did put out a video. I shared that again yesterday in a superintendent update, and encourage people to look at that video because I think it's important for people to understand how our district's funded. We are funded about $2,000 less than our neighboring districts because we don't have mill levy, but I think we use our money very well and we use it very wisely. And we will give a cost of living raise to our teachers this year because we are spending our money wisely. And I think that's important, and that's something to celebrate, not criticize over. So I also am a little troubled by some public statements that have been made and some accusations about some staff about an alleged incident that has occurred. So I'm going to read a public statement. I'm going to read it to make sure that I'm factual. Over the past couple of weeks, we've had some parents who previously had their child enrolled in one of our preschool programs who have made public accusations regarding the care of their child by the Elizabeth School District. While we have tried to work with this family in this matter, it is unfortunate that this family has chosen to continue to make public allegations despite the fact that the incident in question allegedly occurred over a year ago. The family kept their child enrolled in the program for 9 months after the incident. The incident was not brought to the district or law enforcement's attention until 11 months later and was only brought up when the family was denied other requests made of the district. The district takes the care of students very seriously. When the allegation was received by the district in August of 2025 involving an incident that occurred nearly a year prior, in September of 2024, the allegation was also made to the Colorado Department of Education, the Elbert County Sheriff's Office, as well as the local district attorneys. The Elbert County Sheriff's Office conducted an investigation and closed the case. The other two agencies found no basis to investigate. The district conducted an investigation of the 11-month-old allegation, and after interviewing available staff and reviewing available data and evidence, also found the incident to be undetermined. Parents indicated an injury occurred and provided a photo taken when the child was at home on an afternoon evening in question 11 months earlier. Staff recalled no such injury at school on that day and had no documentation of an injury. While the family has made repeated records requests in of the district under Colorado Open Records Act and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, the district has complied with the release of all appropriate information available and has consulted with its legal counsel in doing so. While it is unusual for the district to make a public statement about such accusations, our staff deserve to be defended when public and demonstrably untrue statements are made toward them that put their professional conduct in question. We will continue to defend our staff and will always investigate matters brought to the attention of the district in a thorough and complete manner. When complaints involve law enforcement or the district attorney, the district will always coordinate their investigation with these outside agencies to ensure that they are done in a way to ensure we protect the legal process. Of course, we will always ask that such matters should be brought to the attention of the district and outside authorities in a timely manner so that tools like video surveillance, student witness statements, and other timely tools may support the investigatory findings. The district considers this matter to be closed at this time and will refer any further public comments made to our legal counsel for action and defense of our hardworking staff who work diligently each and every day to serve our students in their care. So,
I'd like to have my 3 minutes to respond right now, if I may.
Okay, so next up we have public comments. So who do we have? Okay, first up we have Chrissy Howell.
Good evening. Thank you for having me up here. I appreciate that you had Chief Engel in kind of clarifying some of the search. I would like to discuss some of that policy. I do have a couple of questions regarding that. The policy says that the parent or guardian of any student searched will be notified as soon as reasonably possible. So why would that be after the fact? Shouldn't parents be notified prior to any search? Unless it's a life or death emergency or a case of suspected abuse or neglect. Parents are the primary guardians of their children's well-being. Why would our presence ever be considered optional? If a parent chooses to allow a search or interrogation without being present, that should be their decision, just like opting into which materials their child can access. This policy also allows a visual search or pat down, but a pat down means touching. If a school official is touching a student's pants pockets, that's a sensitive area. As a parent, I'd absolutely want to be notified of that. This isn't about Susie's gum gone missing. It's about serious matters that can affect a child's record, reputation, and future. Why doesn't the student search form include a notation showing that parents were contacted, or if they weren't contacted, and what their response was? It's just a simple step for transparency and accountability. We've also seen an unprecedented number of students being arrested or cited for things that could be handled within the school. Shouldn't those decisions involve both the principal and the superintendent before bringing law enforcement into a student's life? As someone who has conducted searches professionally, I know proper procedure typically includes a parent or guardian and a witness if requested. Unless there's an immediate threat, why would schools be held to a lower standard when minors are involved? So my question is, how can we claim to support parental rights if parents are left out of the most serious moments involving their own children? Lastly, this is regarding public comment. We all pay taxes, and every voice deserves to be heard, not just a select few. Prioritizing who gets to speak or be heard should never happen. Our schools receive federal, state, and local funding, which means everyone has a stake in this conversation. Public input should be treated equally and heard on a first-come, first-served basis. That's fairness, not favoritism. And that is all I've got. I would like some input, perhaps regarding searches and how we can address that situation. I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up, we have Mark Perna.
Glad Brad is allowing me to criticize you, Dan. Good evening. I'm Mark Ferna, father to an autistic child who suffered an unreported head injury at Singing Hills last year. Friday morning at 6:56 a.m., Dan Snowberger threatened that any future comment would be considered slanderous and dealt with accordingly. Then he said that any public comment I make would now be followed by a public statement by him, despite the board's unanimous agreement that this is not an opportunity to open a dialogue. I want to be clear tonight. What I'm saying is constitutionally protected speech. I will not be intimidated by threats of a lawsuit. In fact, Dan, I welcome your lawsuit. Let's put the records out into the open. I cite records, I cite emails, and I stand behind every word. Dan will tell you, I just didn't get what I wanted. He'll tell you we waited too long to report the injury, that multiple agencies have investigated without bringing the receipts. He'll tell you I attacked the district by advocating for my disabled son, and he'll paint my advocacy as emotional. But let's deal with facts. My son suffered a head injury with symptoms consistent with a concussion. I have not alleged staff abuse. My concern is that the district did not document or review what happened that day. If it had been dealt with properly, there would be a record. And Dan committed to finally reviewing staff emails by October 31st, which contradicts his own statement from the September 23rd board meeting that there was no evidence. That conclusion preceded review of staff communication. I have emails from the district's attorney, Brad Miller, confirming that out of 144 emails, 106 of them were withheld as confidential student information. The 30 that were released weren't related to my son's education whatsoever, and there's a 2-week gap surrounding the incident date. So now we have the district withholding 100% of staff communications regarding the handling or mishandling of my son's injury. And during the course of my investigation, the district released to me unredacted the personal identifiable information and IEP notes of 32 other students. Have you informed those families of this breach? While I, the parent in interest, was denied access to my son's own records, the district simultaneously mishandled the private information of 32 other families. That's FERPA and CORA in reverse. What happened to my son and what's still happening in the way this district hides records and mishandles student data should never happen to another family. The law is clear. Parents have the right to access their child's records, and schools have the duty to protect every student's privacy. The district has failed on both counts. I urge the board to intervene before this district's legal exposure and moral failure grow any deeper. I will continue pursuing the truth, with or without your support. And to the other families who've been stonewalled or silenced, I will stand beside you every step of the way. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time to Mr. Snowberger.
Actually, I'll take it. So, Mr. Perna, you've been selectively sharing information both on social media and in these meetings. And I understand and I empathize with your situation, with your circumstances, but it's important that everybody have a full picture before forming opinions. So there are critical facts missing from what you have put out on social media and what you have presented here to us in person in the previous meeting. And the allegation of a cover-up, the allegation of this incident was investigated. You requested that it be investigated. It was investigated by law enforcement. It was investigated by the district, and they found no evidence to substantiate your claims. You waited 11 months.
The records will show the truth.
Okay. And I will take a look at those. But it's 11 months before this was brought to our attention, before it was brought and mushroomed.
That's how long it takes.
11 months.
Look at the other cases against this district.
And you're asking, the other cases, you're asking us to accept responsibility for an incident that there's no evidence to substantiate. So, you know, at this point, I feel like there is nothing more that we can do for you in this matter. You want us to affirm your accusations, but there's no evidence. There's just no evidence. So, and again, I empathize and I'm sorry, but we can't give you what you're looking for because it is not there. And that is why it has been referred to the attorney, because you're looking for something from us that is just not there. And that's why we have legal representation, and we ask that you go through them.
Well, that's not how the First Amendment works.
Okay, next up, we have Michelle Gazinski.
This board has been the executive branch, and the legislative branch, and this family desperately needs you to be the judiciary branch, okay? I think it is appropriate that you guys call an executive session and let everybody sit down and talk about this, because I think things are being missed, and I think this family desperately needs to be heard, and I think you guys need to hear their story. I think things are trying to be whitewashed. And I think they deserve that respect, and I think it sets a precedent that you will listen to families. And that's an important precedent. What I want to talk about tonight is KEC R-2. It looks like the Protocol 2 was just added, and I didn't hear you guys discuss anything about that. And I want to understand how the logistics of this one is going to work. So this is regarding new material that is introduced to the not to curriculum, but say a teacher, music teacher, wants a CD to compare and contrast percussive instruments from around the world. Would they have to submit this CD to the chief academic officer, then the curriculum review committee, and finally the school board for approval before using it in the classroom? And how long will that take? I feel like this is really overstepping the boundary of teachers being able to use tools at their disposal If a student needs extra material to grasp the concept, or maybe there's a student that is deeply excelling at a particular topic and the rest of the class is gonna take 3 more days to finish this section, a teacher needs to be able to grab some more books, borrow it from another teacher in another school maybe, things like that that they need access to at their own hands. So that falls under this curriculum and this materials. And so I don't think that teachers need to be restricted quite that much. So I'm asking you guys to reevaluate that and look into that specific Protocol 2 section. And also, I ask that you discuss it with the teachers. Throw out a survey and say, what does this look like to you? What makes sense to you? What do you need at your disposal? But still being able to understand what you have and what you need. We sat and we inventoried everything, down all the books, all as parents did, down to this bedroom and how many toys are in it and dolls. And we know what we have. And so letting and there wasn't any issues. There may be like one thing, right, out of all the things that were looked at. And that wasn't even a real problem. So I think this is very restrictive. I think we need to let teachers keep their tools in their tool bag to keep providing this high quality learning experience. The last thing I want to talk about is the BDH. Lift the frequency from once a month. If we're going to have 2 meetings, and I have 2 kids, and each kid I need to talk about a policy regarding each of my kids, I don't think parents should be restricted on only being able to talk once a month. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Tom Peterson.
Well, thank you, board members, and good evening. Tom Peterson, my wife Lynn and I have lived in the community 28 years, raised our 5 kids in the community, 3 that graduated from Elizabeth High School, and I want to commend you on your focus on curriculum and reading, and knowing firsthand the importance of reading first, second, third grade. So I too look forward to the reports and the fruit of your labor. I also agree 100% in your library guiding protocols, having been one of the parents to read a couple of the books, 5 of the books back here, and the materials include graphic violence, sexual content, profanity, obscenity, ideations of self-harm, mental illness, religious viewpoint, drug, excessive alcohol, racism, discrimination. That's what I read. That's why I support that policy and appreciate all that you're doing. Just a couple other things. I have several neighbors, friends that we live near. They're very excited on the football team. The middle school, the high school, sense of excitement as a school year. And it's exciting to see the legacy of success of Elizabeth sports, and so we appreciate that. Another comment, Adam Payton, government teacher, spoke at a community event in September associated with Constitution Day, did an excellent job of reinforcing, developing critical thinking skills in our students. And it was a biased audience, and he told the line of we develop critical thinkers, and that's exactly what we want to hear, what we want to see. And so kudos to the high school and Mr. Payton. One final comment that I want to make, and this is the culture of the community, a conservative community, but yet often the contrarians, the naysayers, the adversary, I would characterize their viewpoints as liberal progressive. And one data point in that, we have 681 pre-registered 15, 16, and 17-year-olds in Elbert County that are pre-registered to vote, 681. 6 of them have pre-registered as Democrats. That's less than 1% that I would characterize as being liberal, progressive, as compared to a culture of faith, family, and freedom. So I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate your engagement in the community and your involvement. And I look forward to the Thanksgiving feast on November 20th. And with that, I'll yield my time. But appreciate all that you do, and thank you for it.
Thank you, Tom.
Next up, we have Heather Booth.
I'm just gonna let it go.
Would you feel more comfortable sitting up here?
It's interesting being on this side. Well, my name is Heather Booth. I have lived here for 25 years, and for 20 of those years, I have had 4 kids in the district. I want to express how proud I am to have worked alongside this school board and our superintendent. Over the past few years, you've led with integrity and have always kept our kids at the heart of every decision. You've ensured our classrooms stay focused on learning and free from political agendas. You've taken steps to protect students, from removing inappropriate materials from libraries to placing armed security at every school to ensuring that parents' voices are heard. I keep hearing claims that this board isn't being fiscally responsible, yet many of those same critics are the ones constantly filing lawsuits and court requests that cost the district money. They also accuse you of ignoring parents, but when the majority of parents spoke up about wanting inappropriate books removed, those same people were the ones shouting the loudest in opposition. I'm sorry you have to deal with people who try to twist facts and spread misinformation just to serve a political narrative or influence this upcoming election. Please remember that the majority of this community is conservative, families who value traditional education focused on academics, accountability, and respect. We stand firmly behind you and your commitment to keeping our schools strong, safe, and grounded in common sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next up, we have consent. So I move that the board approve consent items 7.1 through 7.7.
Because we amended it,
that.
I removed the original 7.7.
Okay, it's back.
I thought it was easier, but apparently it wasn't easier the way I did it.
That's what happens when I make my own and tweak my own. Okay, so I move that the board approve consent items 7.1 through 7.7 as presented.
Second.
Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
And next up, we have our third reading of revised policy BEDB, which is the agenda. So this is the one.
One I think we're good. We're
Yeah.
good with.
Okay. So I move that the board approve the third and final reading of revised policy BEDB agenda.
Second.
Any further discussion on this one? Okay, all right, roll call.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay. Next up, we have our third reading of revised policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings. So I move that the board approve the third and final reading of revised policy BEDH. Is this the one we're
This one we're
taking?
This is
pulling.
the one we
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
bring back one more time because of the,
Okay,
I think
the,
you need to
stuff
move
on
to table it.
personal matters.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think the first motion, but,
Yeah.
Plus, I think we were
Oh,
trying
no
to
one
get to
was
5
on.
readings.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
yeah, you could just drop it.
okay.
We're gonna drop that today. Is that what
You
you're
wanna make a motion?
Yeah,
and
I'm
just
gonna
have no one
move,
second?
and then if nobody seconds, then it just,
Then
It
just
dies.
drops.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I move that the board approve the third and final reading of revised policy BEDH, public participation at school board meetings. Can I get a second? No? Okay, so we're gonna table that one. Next up, we have our first reading of revised policy ECAF, use of video and audio monitoring. I move that the board approve the first reading of revised policy ECAF, use of video and audio monitoring.
Second.
So this again, just to emphasize, this is really about this is about the security monitoring video. So this really is what this policy is meant to. We'll get some clarification, Mary, and make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's on this before we bring it back for a second and final, hopefully, second and final reading.
Okay.
This in the regulation.
Sounds good.
Okay, so Mary, you seconded?
Yes.
Okay. So
Oh, she
any-
hasn't, yeah, she did.
Yes, she did. She
Okay.
did.
Any further discussion on this one? All right, can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Hunt,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
And following, we have our first reading of revised regulation ECAF-R, use of video and audio monitoring. So I move that the board approve the first reading of revised regulation ECAF-R, use of video and audio monitoring.
Second.
Again, we'll make sure we look at FERPA and make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's on that one for you as well.
Cool.
Okay, can I get a roll call on this one?
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Hunt,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Okay, the next one I'm very happy to make a motion on. This is our third reading of revised policy GCBC, staff supplementary pay plans
Third
and
and final.
stipends.
Third and final?
Sure.
You have to say it, though.
Put it in stone. So I move that the board approve the third and final reading of revised policy GCBC, staff supplementary pay plans and stipends.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on this one? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Hunt,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye. Sorry. Got so excited there. Jumped the gun. She said aye too.
Yeah,
I
I
said
got
it
him
the
right.
right time.
Oh, okay. I don't know what happened there, but I messed up, sorry.
Okay, next up, we have our third and revised reading of revised policy JIH, which is student interviews, interrogations, searches, and arrests. So, I think we discussed this one pretty well, so I'm gonna move that the board approve the third and final reading of revised policy JIH, student interviews, interrogations, searches, and arrests.
Second.
Any further discussion on this one? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Hunt,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Okay. Remember, out of turn is that.
Yes.
Okay, and next up, we have the policy Dan worked so hard on. This is our third reading of new policy JLIF, service animals, animals in schools.
Third and final?
Hopeful, huh?
Take the ones we can get.
Okay, I move that the board approve the third and final reading of new policy JLIF, service animals, animals in schools.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on this one? Okay. Can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Hunt,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
And one near and dear to our heart. This is our fourth reading of our new regulation KEC-R-2, Board Library Guiding Protocols. I move that the board approve the fourth and final reading of new regulation KEC-R-2, Board Library Guiding Protocols.
Second.
Any further discussion on this one?
Yeah, no, I think this is
Good.
pretty good.
Okay. All right. Can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Hunt,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
Okay. And last but certainly not least, we have our appointments of our District Advisory Council and our Board Curriculum Review Committee. They're in the packet. And do you want me to read out names?
That was just updated one.
Okay.
You want to make a motion and then
Yep.
we can,
So I move that the board approve the updated membership of the District Advisory Council.
Second.
And on that particular one, we're just adding one more community member, Bobby Wolf, has been added. She stepped
We
forward.
approved all
and-
the others last time.
Yeah, so all the others were approved, so.
I'm excited to meet her.
We are a full deck, and we meet this Thursday. So we've had our calendar survey out, and excited, actually some really interesting feedback on calendar, so we'll be having some interesting conversations this Thursday.
Cool, very good. All right, so any further discussion on that? Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
And we have also finalized the membership of our Curriculum Review Committee. So I move that the board approve the membership of the Board Curriculum Review Committee.
Second?
And any further discussion on this one?
I think we've got a good list of people.
We
I'm
do.
excited.
I'm excited. I'm excited what they're gonna bring to the table. Okay, so with that, can I get a roll call?
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Hunt?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay, and with that, our next Board of Education meeting is scheduled for 6 p.m. on November 11th, 2025. I call this meeting adjourned at 8:06 p.m.